Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member DeLauro.
Thank you, and good afternoon to you, to the acting chair, Mr. Roy, and the ranking member, Mr. McGovern, and Chairwoman Fox, and the other members of the committee. Again, good to be with you, and again, alongside of my dear friend, Chairman Cole. Let me begin by expressing my strong support for 3 of the 4 bills before us today. The Labor HHS Education Bill, Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development, and the Department of Defense funding bills are strong, bipartisan, bicameral agreements. And I commend ranking members McCollum and Clyburn for their great work on these measures, and again, once again, applaud the staff on both sides of the aisle who, while we may have been fast asleep and enjoying a good night's sleep, none of them have had a good night's sleep in the last several weeks. So we're grateful for their work. Additionally, I am proud of the work we were able to do on the Labor, Health and Human Services and Education Bill, and I commend Chairman Adderholt as well. The story of these 3 bills is the same as the previous 5, a strong, bipartisan, bicameral agreement that rejects the Trump administration's efforts to eviscerate public services and reasserts Congress's power of the purse. This package rejects efforts to dismantle the Department of Education, shores up our support for European security, and increases funding for public health and medical research. It invests in affordable housing, providing relief to families feeling the squeeze from the cost of living crisis. And it supports our transportation infrastructure, making our skies safer, our streets smoother, and our passenger rail systems more efficient. Through this package, we will prevent more than 4 million American households from being evicted. We will hire 2,500 more air traffic controllers and provide a pay raise for the brave men and women who serve our country in uniform. Each of these bills are stronger because Democrats had a seat at the table. When you look at the differences between what was proposed and what was agreed to, it is astonishing. The White House proposed slashing biomedical research funding at the NIH by $19 billion. We increased funding for the NIH by $415 million. In Labor HHS alone, we rejected more than $50 billion in proposed cuts. The THUD bill is $46 billion more than what the White House proposed. I want my Democratic colleagues to understand that though we may not have gotten every single thing we wanted, these bills are substantially better, I believe, because of our involvement and our collaboration. In addition to more robust funding, this package contains important constraints on the Trump administration. It provides precise funding levels, removing ambiguity that the White House and Russ Vought have sought to exploit in the past. It lays down deadlines to disperse required spending. It provides minimum staffing thresholds to prevent agencies from being hollowed out, and it increases notification requirements to ensure the administration is complying with the laws of the Congress. I'm proud of the work that was done on this package and look forward to supporting it on the floor later this week. Let me take a moment to address the 4th bill before us today, and that is Homeland Security. First, I want to acknowledge some of the improvements included in the bill. Despite President Trump and Secretary Noem's ongoing quest to eliminate FEMA, the Homeland bill increases FEMA funding by $873 million. It increases funding for TSA by $149 million, and it provides pay raise for air traffic controllers as well as uniformed members of the U.S. Coast Guard. These provisions are important, and I am glad that they are in this bill. However, it is impossible to ignore the impact that the violent lawlessness against law-abiding citizens perpetrated by ICE has had on these negotiations. Every day we are inundated with innumerable videos, reports, and eyewitness counts documenting egregious violations of basic American freedoms by ICE. This conduct demands a forceful response with meaningful constraints on an agency that has clearly become unaccountable. We proposed many such restraints, but our Republican colleagues refused to include almost all of them. And I believe that dictate came from the White House. They rejected proposals to block funds from being used to detain and deport U.S. citizens. They refused to include provisions that would prevent interior operations by non-ICE personnel, prohibiting the border patrol involvement. They blocked our attempts to ensure members of Congress can exercise our lawful oversight of ICE facilities uninhibited. They blocked the training and hiring standards for ICE, and blocked requiring ICE warrants. They blocked prohibiting restrictions on recording ICE enforcement operations. By the way, an amendment that was adopted in our full committee in a manager's amendment. Among the provisions we were able to secure are $115 million decrease in ICE enforcement and removal operations funding, a reduction in detention capacity, funding that can only be used for body-worn cameras, and increase in funding for the Office of Inspector General. It is good these measures are included in this bill, but it's clear that more must be done to rein in this rogue agency. I encourage everyone to take a look at what is contained in the Homeland Security bill and determine for themselves what is right for their constituents and their communities. A final note is I was pleased that we were able to have the bipartisan support on community projects, but that both House Democrats and Republicans requested in the bill. It really is directing funds to local communities to support the highest priority infrastructure projects and what the local concerns are. And a final word is that we view our role, and I say this about the chairman, myself, and other members of the Appropriations Committee, our job is to govern. And I believe that's what we have tried to do over these last several weeks and several months, is to be able to govern, to make sure appropriations bills are on track, that they meet the needs of the American public, that they have hammered out the issues on both sides of the aisle, and that we can come to a conclusion that allows us to be able to govern on behalf of the American public. Again, is it everything that I wanted in a bill? No, that isn't true. And as my colleague, Congressman Cole, has said, we do disagree on issues, but I believe fundamentally it is what we want to do about governing in this nation and governing on behalf of the people of this country. I thank you and I yield back.